boys and girls. We are finally at the end of the work week. It's Friday. Holy shit, it's get the fuck out of work time. It's wrestling time. It's going to see live bands. It's going to hang out with your girl. It's whatever you got going on. Go do it. It's the weekend, but look who we have. It's Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Kris Rex. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. It's I've actually hit you up a couple times about doing this. Finally, we actually get to sit down and do this. I've watched a lot of your podcast. Today I watched, and I've been watching throughout the years. I've been watching, and I this seems like something up my alley, like you said, like you were talking about before we went on. The raw, the realism, just shooting the shit, bro, and that's what I like to do.
Yes. Uh, Now, boys and girls, you guys know that I don't research nothing. I don't write nothing down. I don't go to the YouTube and maybe look at some of the guys and girls that come on the show. I don't look at their footage pre-show. I just kind of dive right in, all sorts of willy-nilly and crazy and like a rebel. And this is still one of those times because I've legit only seen Mr. Rex, I want to say, perform one time, maybe twice, but I know at least one time in NYC over at the Bronx, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes, over at Darrow's gym. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, what a fucking setup that thing is over there. Holy cow.
I'll tell you, I've known about Darrow's gym for a while now. To me personally, it's always kind of been like a weird setup. You know, you got all the gym equipment around, but at the end of the day, when you think about it, it's like that's fucking indie wrestling, man. Getting it done, no matter how you got to get it done, man.
Uh, Now, for the boys or girls that don't know, it's Dario's Fitness Center, correct?
I think it's Darrow's Fitness, Extreme Fitness, Darrow's Extreme Fitness.
And it's in the Bronx, correct?
Yes.
All right, now I'm just going to paint a picture real quick from the first time I went to the second time I went, because I legit have only been there twice, and I won't take up too much of your time telling this painting this picture, if you will. The first time I went was with my pop, and we went to go follow Nutrius X specifically. He
Great dude.
was coming
Great dude.
back to New York to wrestle because he was quite regular in my area in Connecticut. So we legit went down for one guy to support one dude. And we get upstairs. It's on the second floor of this like industrial building. Little to my knowledge, I was talking to Larry Legend pre-show because nobody was there standing in line yet. And I go, is there wrestling around here? He goes, yeah, you're at the right place. So me, him, and my old man, we just started chit-chatting. Later on, I come to find out, hey, that was Larry fucking Legend because I didn't know of this area, right? So we get upstairs to the second floor. We pay our way in. Blah blah blah. We get into this place, and like Mr. Rex said, it's a bunch of like gym equipment, elliptical and weights and all sorts of shit going on. And this second floor, boys and girls, is wide open, except for some big, giant, huge, humongous columns that go throughout the building. So all the way down to the end of this floor, and I mean all the way because again, it's a very large, it's a sizable building. All the way down to the end is legit a wrestling ring that they've stuffed all the way into the corner. They have their own setup with some logos and some, graffiti type looking stuff. And it's like all set up. It's their home base, over there. And the music is loud. The fans are louder and crazy. Crazy. The craziest fans I think I've ever run into, to be honest with you. And we've talked on this show, the difference between fans from venue to venue or state to state. Holy fuck NYC. You
Oh
guys
yeah.
fuck around.
Let me tell you, there's something about these NYC fans, and I think it started back with ECW. Is we became this diehard. Like, if you want to make it as an indie wrestler, you got to get over in New York. And it seems like to get over in New York, you got to kill yourself, man. Like either you got to shed blood, or you got to do the coolest shit they've ever seen, or you're getting booed out the fucking building. I like that you brought up NutriSex because I trained with NutriSex. I've worked multiple matches with NutriSex. He is one of my favorite guys in the business, just all around. We have a strong friendship. that started when we started training under Joel Maximo together. And I followed him in his way to Connecticut, so I know exactly what you were talking about. Seeing NutriSex, attest his strength and the Connecticut promotions. He really started making his way out there with the other Bronx boys. I call them the Bronx boys, but Nick Payne, Hakeem Ali, Dre,
Yeah.
NutriSex, Gino. I mean, those are all my dudes, man. So I appreciate you shouting out NutriSex there.
I'm going to describe the second time I went there, but you just named some names that really like hit home to me and hit right here in my heart. Hakim and Nick have always been gracious with their time and always, I'm thankful of whatever I've done, to shed whatever kind of spotlight I can for them guys, sharing their matches or footage or promos or even buying their merch. I buy some HOP merch and stuff. Great guys. But then you mentioned Gino the God and this fucking wiggle of his, dude. I know everybody's supposed to love it, and I swear to Christmas, everybody does love this thing. And Mr. Rex, I'm the only guy who legit is recording and either standing up or just sitting down, either way. But I'm doing one of the two, and I am hell no with this wiggle. Keep this wiggle to yourself. I don't want none of it. And Gino gives it to me just a little extra. That son of a bitch.
Let me tell you about the wiggle. I've personally been in the ring while he's doing the wiggle. Actually, when NutriSex and Gino were teaming as Certified Sexy in FSW in New York, we were kind of always like I was part of the Snot, which was a team that consisted of me, Azriel, and Casanova Valentine at the time. We were heavily involved in a tag team title feud, and I remember the first time when they called out the wiggle spot in the back, and I was like, oh man, like I don't know, like how like I've never been in like a spot like this before. But let me tell you, that thing gets over, bro. That wiggle gets over. Like, they did this thing where it was like a combination, and then I'm down, they do the wiggle wiggle, and they do their tag move. And I was just like, when I heard the crowd pop to the wiggle wiggle, I was like, they have something here. Like I'm sitting there looking up at the fucking stars, and I'm like, they got something. They got something here. So as annoying as it may be, it gets them over, bro.
That's only with me and this little thing that I do with Gino. It just started one time, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna run with it. And let me tell you, I do get some looks from some of the fans because they're all lifting Gino and his partner Tyler Jones when they come out, and and I'm sitting there booing, and I'm like, "F you" and that wiggle, and it's like, wait, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, hey, I'm a-okay. You guys do your thing.
There's always got to be the one guy in the crowd that doesn't like what's over. Like it's like, oh, it's over. You know what? I don't like it. It's nice to have that fan. It shows that, okay, not all fans are the same. 50% of the crowd may like it, but the other half of the crowd may not. And that's the best part about wrestling, man.
Well, it is because you get to have, your own passion, your own voice, your own what you want to say, what you want to do, as long as it's in a respectful manner. I feel, please, let's all be different because I know, like, I'm one of the guys that I like to cheer for all the faces and I like to boo all the heels. Good guys, bad guys. That's what wrestling is. That's my jam. I love that shit, But and I'll give you why. And I don't even know if Gino knows this. When you're sitting in a chair and Gino does the wiggle and you're recording, if you will, we'll add that to the mix. And all you see basically is
his crotch.
The no zone. Okay. I used to cheer for it when it came out and stuff. Okay. But as I'm doing more footage and I'm seeing this no zone in my face more and more, and I'm like, I'm telling this dude, I don't want none of this asinine shit. And I just stuck to my guns and we just do it. I don't know why. It just happened, and I love doing it. And he gets a kick out of when he sees me. It's almost like we have this connection, Kris, right across from maybe the curtain, or when he comes walking on the side of the ring where I'm sitting and he sees me, he was like, "Oh, you love that wiggle." And I'm like, "No, no wiggle." Oh.
See, that's what's Don. That's what's great about independent wrestling is that intimacy between the fans. Like you'll always see these same faces in the crowd that you're always gonna have some sort of interaction with, and you're one of those fans that now Gino comes to the shows. He's expecting you. He knows you're gonna rip on him. And we look forward to that because. Compared to going to a WWE show or an AEW show, you really don't get that intimacy and that personal touch with a fan. It's more like you see what everybody else sees. But if I'm coming up to you and I'm giving you as much of a hard time as you're giving me, that just adds to it, man.
Yeah. And it seems because I did take a break for a few months with stirring the pot, and right now we're kind of dead center. I think we are 9, 10. We are 10 of 20. I wanted to do 10 interviews in 10 days, but I kept getting my door knocked on privately over there on the messenger, sliding in the old DM. So I turned it into 20 interviews in 20 days. So this is dead center of 10 of 20. And we're going to move right along for another 2 weeks. So holy crap. But anywho, I love doing this stuff though, because I like to do it in bigger chunks for some reason instead of maybe one a month or bi-weekly or maybe even one a week or whatever. And I have done, but I just love doing peppering them, man. And I'll give you a big example. When COVID hit, I didn't know what to fucking do. So I went from face to face, going to people's homes and getaways and whatnot. Instead of doing that, I started this. I had to find a platform that I could use that I could record both video and audio, because you can do it on Messenger, but the audio will not be recorded,
Yeah.
only video, and other medias as well. It's the same exact thing. But I found that Skype, I can get both, and I want it for the raw file so I can store all of my interviews. I want to keep all of that raw file. So I do. I save all of them on an external hard drive. Just plug it into the old phone real quick and throw it on there,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a matter of those connections. So I do them in big chunks. So what I'm driving at is I did 115 episodes. We did 115 interviews, my man, in 5 weeks.
Shit, bro. You're busy, fuck. Like I just fucking booked up within an hour today. I booked up my next 4 weeks of my podcast, Wrestling with a Bear, within an hour just by throwing out a post. Hey, whether you're a promoter, a wrestler, manager, whatever, get at me. Tell your story. Even if you just want to fucking get yourself over, here's a platform to do it. And within an hour, I booked up the next 4 weeks. And then I got 2 more weeks coming in. So it's like,
Yes.
really? Like, oh, and my whole thing with my podcast was I didn't want it to come off as the Kris Rex and Friends show. I didn't want to get all my connections on there and everyone's, oh, well, of course he's putting his friends on there. But also, I have this saying that I say on my podcast, it's not my fault that my friends happen to be talented as fuck. Like, that's not my fault. But I held off for a while. Like, the only interview I did with my podcast was with Shane Taylor after I had met him at WrestleMania last year. And we brought him on, and I hadn't done an interview since. And I noticed that we started becoming like the average wrestling podcast, reviewing shows, talking about the dirt sheets and the news going on. And after a while, it gets boring. And as someone who listens to podcasts, that's boring to me because it's the same shit everyone else is doing. So we kind of hit a stump to where, okay, this week there really was no big news worth talking about. What are we going to do going forward now? We can't not do an episode for a month because there's nothing to talk about. And co-host of mine, my former tag team partner, had brought it to my attention. You have these connections. Why not use them? Who cares what people think about your podcast? If you're going to put out that content and you can use your connections to help build the content, why not do it? So legit, I woke up this morning and started hitting up a bunch of people and people hitting me up, and I got the next 4 weeks booked. And that's always kind of been my problem is I like to do things myself. I don't like to use my connections. I don't, unless I absolutely have to. I don't like reaching out to people. Like, okay, if I'm stuck, okay, I'll reach out to someone. If I can figure myself out of a situation, I'd rather not bother anybody. And that comes more towards the mental, of I don't want to feel like a bother to somebody, because that's always been my problem in life. I know we're kind of switching away from wrestling to kind of real life here,
It's
but
all about all of the topics. It does not matter, my man. Please continue.
like for me mentally, it's always been, I always feel like I'm a bother to someone by asking them, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? Even like when it comes to getting bookings, like I've been out of action since the pandemic hit. I decided not to wrestle. I didn't think it was a safe thing to do, especially I heard of so many independent wrestlers coming down with COVID. And I'm like, well, because you're traveling state from state, you don't know what you're touching. You're touching these gas pumps, and you don't know what you're coming in contact with. So I decided for a personal, just not to wrestle. That kind of bit me in the ass, because here we are now. We're getting into the heat where shows are really starting to pick up again, and I feel like now I'm kind of left in the dust because I took these 2 years off. Now it's kind of like I don't have recent footage to send out. I don't, the whole time I've been off, I'm developing this new character that I'll be debuting. But as other than that, it's like I haven't done anything wrestling. So when I hit up a promoter, I have to tell them, hey man, I haven't worked in 2 years. I can send you footage, but it's nothing recent. So I feel like now I'm at that point where I'm starting over again.
Wow. What? And I appreciate you sharing. That's what the show is all about. And I know there's a few things because I wanted to do the wrestling and what you have going on with your podcast and everything else. But please continue on this topic, because we love to talk about the mental game, how important it is. The physical thing could be whatever you want, the diet and the gym and the regimen that you build yourself into physically. But dude, up here, I always felt it was much harder than doing the physical part, because you can you can get away, like being solid. It could turn in a second. All of a sudden, something could happen so crazy in your life, and it just takes you in a weird direction. So talk to us about where you're at right now, because you have a new character that you have all developed in your mind already. Now, is it physically? Do you have the gear? Do you have?
Oh yeah, yeah. I started planning this, which is funny because around right before COVID had hit, around 2009, late 2019, early 2020, I had just broken away from being in the tag team. I had gone on to a singles run with Infinite Pro Wrestling, and I started gaining momentum at Infinite Pro Wrestling. They had put their Fury TV title on me, and I was my first singles championship, like ever, ever. And for me, I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, you were booked to win it." Yes, I was booked to win it, but I didn't know I was winning it until I got to the venue that day. So it was nothing that I knew. I did the graphics and everything for the company, but I didn't know who's going over. I actually came into the venue with plans of me getting eliminated first. Like, okay, this is how we're gonna get me out the match now. So then, I could just chill out for the rest of the night. And then I see my name is underlined. I'm going over, and for me that meant a lot to me, because it was the first time a company had say, or a person had said, we trust you with this. You deserve this. You worked hard for this. So, in that moment when I won the belt, I felt like, all right, this is the part where I'm on top of my game now. I had dyed my hair fully blonde. I'll be honest with you, I was on the juice. I was juicing. I will tell you from this podcast, you'll notice I'm probably the most honest pro wrestler you talk to. I have no problem saying, yeah, I was on fucking steroids. And I was really gaining momentum. And then I was booked to appear at a Comic-Con in Delaware. And I was like, oh shit, like, okay, things are really happening. There were plans for me to go out to the UK and defend my belt in other promotions. COVID hit. And when COVID hit, shows got canceled. And I was like, what? I just got this big moment. It's fucking gone. Like mentally, it fucked me up mentally, because I was like, here's this, finally someone sees what I can do. And a fucking global pandemic takes it all away from me. Like not even anything I controlled. takes it all away from me. So mentally, what am I going to do from here? I had started a music podcast, Motley Metal, and after doing that, I started watching Motley Crue's documentary, well, not documentary, but the movie they made, The Dirt, and seeing the shenanigans and the life of Motley Crue, I started really thinking into. I'm like, you know what? What did I want to be if I wasn't going to be a pro wrestler? What would I want to be? A fucking rock star. I mean, that's I wanted to live that, and I kind of in my late teens, early adulthood 20s, that was my life, going out clubbing, having sex, drugs, and rock and roll was my life. So I said, okay, I could take this part of me that there's already rumors out of there of me doing drugs and doing this and why not just fucking adapt that and say, you know what, yeah, fuck it, yeah, that's me. You're gonna get the realest. You could say the rock star lifestyle is for rock stars. Nah, it's fucking my lifestyle. So that's why I really started planting the idea in my head of what if I came up with this character, because I really thought the pandemic was going to just come and go. All right, in 3 months, it'll be over. Everyone will stop talking about it. There'll be something else out there, and we'll get back to business. When that didn't happen, it really started getting to me mentally. And then they were still running shows, and I'm like, what's the point of running shows if there's no fans? That was another reason I stopped. You're running these uh, which glorify backyard shows. Legit, you're running in people's backyards because you can't run in venues. There's no fans. I'm sorry, I don't work for the boys. I work for the fans. The boys' reactions mean nothing to me compared to the fans' reactions. So I was very vocal about that, and maybe that kind of hindered me a bit. But I had wound up getting into a deep depression. I felt like I was gonna die of a heart attack before the age of 35. Like I called up my brother one day crying, and I was like, "Bro, I don't know what to do." And he's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Just everything going on in life right now. I didn't have a job. I was sleeping in my best friend's living room. I just didn't feel like a man. And again, you're gonna get the most honest opinions from me. I didn't feel like a man. I felt like I could be doing so much more in my life, and I kind of just became content with where I was. And I really felt like with all the stress and everything that I felt it in my heart that I'm gonna die before the age of 40. That's what's gonna happen. And my brother had offered me an opportunity to move out to Pennsylvania and get a better life for myself, which currently, yeah, I feel much better than I was a year or two ago. I started working when I came up here. I was making a lot of money, and that's when I said, you know what? I kind of lost my love for wrestling throughout COVID because it's just the thought of it of other people doing it and not me. Again, I'll be completely honest, it was making me sick. It's like I should be out there, but I'm stopping myself from being out there because of COVID. Um, then when they announced that WrestleMania last year was they were going to allow fans in attendance, I said, I've never been to a WrestleMania in my life. It's always been a dream of mine to attend WrestleMania and watch WrestleMania. So that's what I want to do. But as you know, there's also a bunch of indie promotions that run around WrestleMania. And I said to myself, I'm gonna fly down to Florida. I'm not taking bookings. I had a couple offers. I'm not taking bookings. What I want to do is find my love for pro wrestling again. If I cannot find my love for pro wrestling during one of the biggest weekends in professional wrestling, then this isn't for me anymore. And I
That
came
that
in.
that was with the pirate ship in the rain and everything.
Yes, yes, that's when we had the rain delay. Um, and I remember I had flew down with a friend of mine from Texas who I co-host Wrestling with a Bear with, and that Thursday we went to Bloodsport, and I seen a lot of my peers. Like the first person I seen was Julius Smokes, and I legit was going down there. I didn't want to be noticed by anybody. I was just like, okay, I need to not be noticed by anybody. I don't want to be known by anybody. And instantly, Julius Smokes fucking recognized me from New York. And right off the bat, then the next person notices me. I'm like, okay, like in my head, at that time, I was in this mindset of everybody from New York hates me, whether for whatever reason they hate me. Nobody wants to know me. No, everybody just hates me. And seeing this the amount of love I got from my peers that hadn't seen me in a couple of years, and they're like, "Oh shit, it's nice to see you down here. Hope you're doing good." Da da da. And I'm like, people don't hate me. Like it was just such a mind fuck for me. And it took a Saturday. We had a Generation Championship Wrestling. They were running a whole day of events, and my whole reason of me going down there was also to cover their events. After sitting through about,
Was that the 24-hour event that they had over there?
it felt like 24 hours. I'm sure it was like 10 a.m. to like 1 a.m. or something like, or 2 a.m. But yeah, it was like a whole day of events.
Because I know
And
a GCW event, and it legit ran a whole 24 hours. They had a shitload of guys and girls over there. It was like the I watched a lot of it, but not all of it, obviously. I'm sorry to interrupt.
well, no, that's perfect lead into what I'm about to say, because after being there from 10 a.m., watching about 4 to 6 hours of wrestling, sitting in the crowd because I was so nervous about going into the back because I've been out of action for so long. Will these people even know who I am? If I walk in the back, are they going to question who I am? And so I sat in the crowd, like front row in the crowd, like a fan. And after about like 4 to 6 hours of watching wrestling and some good matches, some horrible matches, started getting that itch, and it got me mad, and I was getting really angry to the point where I went to the bar. Once the
Wow.
bar opened, I went to the bar, had a couple of drinks, came back, and I seen somebody attempt to do a Spanish fly. Now, my trainer is Joel Maximo and Jose Maximo. Those are my trainers, the men who invented the Spanish fly. It always pains me to see anyone do a Spanish fly because almost 9 times out of 10, it never comes out right, especially if you're just doing it for the first time. So I see this kid set the dude up on a turnbuckle. I said, no. I'm looking over at my friend and I said, no, no, they're not doing it. They're not. And I'm drunk. Like I've been hitting since the bar opened, I've been hitting the drinks. And I seen him go up. I seen him climb up. I seen him grab the arm. I said, no. Guy comes over and like completely fucks it up. So me being the drunk that I am, I literally got up, screamed Spanish flop, and walked out the venue. I said, I cannot deal with this anymore. As I'm walking out the venue, I said, you know what? I'm just going to go to the back. Started going to the back, and I seen Willow Nightingale, who I know from New York. And she's like, oh, Kris Rex. Oh, it's so nice to see you. And again, I felt that love. And everyone just embracing me, whether they knew who I was or not. Sugar Dunkerton, this is the first time I ever met him, and we're sitting there vibing about early 2000s hip hop, and I started getting that feeling of happiness, and this is where I belong. I don't belong out there. I don't belong sitting in those seats. This is where I belong amongst my peers, people who understand me. And after that moment, I ran into Shane Taylor, and again, I was drunk and I got emotional because after seeing his match, like I said, this is wrestling, man. Like this dude makes me want to wrestle again. I went up to him, bawling in tears, bro. Thank you. And he's like, for what? I said, for helping me find my love for wrestling again. And from that moment, I said, I'm back. I'm back. I found my love for wrestling. And then of course, I went to WrestleMania, sitting up there. I didn't have the best seats. But sitting up there, I was looking down before the show had started. I'm looking down at the ring, and I'm just keep saying to myself, I'm gonna be there one day. I'm not gonna be in the crowd. I'm gonna be in that ring at WrestleMania one day. And I had never really said that out loud. I've always thought it. I've always felt it in my heart. I've never said that out loud to anyone. And my friend sitting next to me, and I said, I'm gonna be here. So for me to like finally admit that this is where I want to be. It just confirmed it for me. Like I officially found my love for wrestling. I can now move on and get back into it.
So you found your fandom in a couple different ways that actually made a small package here between Shane Taylor going down, getting in some of those indie environments, getting over to WrestleMania. And like you said, maybe your seats weren't the best, so you're sitting in the cheap seats, but you're at WrestleMania. That environment has got to be off the charts and indescribable. I see it
It
on
was,
TV.
bro.
We all see it on TV, but they, just like anything else, if it's a Super Bowl or if it's a World Series, if you're not there, it's literally undescribable, and you just have to be there.
And that's what was going through my head. I was making pretty good money. And I said, I don't know where I'm going to be next year. I don't know if I'm going to be making this money next year. But right now, I have this money. I've never been to WrestleMania. I'm doing it. And I knew, like, if I didn't do it then, I probably would never go to a WrestleMania again. I mean, I'm planning on going next year to LA, but like for me in that moment, I said this is probably do or die for me. And if I don't go to this WrestleMania, who knows if I'll ever get a chance to go to one again. So I really took a chance going out there. Like I said, a couple people offered me bookings, and I was just the first time, like usually I'd be like, hell yeah, I'll take any booking, just to rest, because that's one of my goals, to wrestle during WrestleMania weekend. And I completely turned down 3 offers because I said, no, I need to love this before I can accept bookings again. I need to realize that whether this is what I really want to do with my life or not. I don't have another 5 years to decide this. I'm 31 right now. I don't have 5 years to decide if this is what I'm going to do with my life. I have now and now only.
Yeah. That story, that story you just shared with us, I could pick a lot of things. We could go into a lot of different directions from where we're at now. I want to go all the way kind of back, and I just want to pull one thing out, because when you're juicing, if you will, now the world shuts down. You're not being active. You're not getting in the
I
ring
could I
train.
couldn't even get the juice. I'll be honest, I was on a cycle from about September to February. I was on, I believe, 2 cycles I was on. And then once, COVID hit, I couldn't get it. That's honestly why, like, I kind of stopped working. There was nowhere to work out. Um, there were no shows going on, and if there were shows, they weren't shows I was interested in working. And I'll be honest, I kind of let myself go during COVID.
Besides the no wrestling, now you don't have this regimen of what you're doing to your body, and now your body's saying, fuck you, what are you doing to me right now? So again, this all reverts, my friends, boys and girls, this whole conversation that we've had for probably the last solid 20 minutes. We're about 33 minutes runtime. It's all about upstairs, because wrestling stopped. A wrestler can't wrestle. That's hard enough on your mind to not get in that ring and be able to train with your brothers and sisters and still have that camaraderie. And you're at a very weird point in your career, because you thought everybody hated you, so you didn't even think there was that brotherhood and sisterhood and that camaraderie back there. And not only that, what you're doing to your body just came to a halt, legit. So you're like cold turkey in this shit. So that's added on, and then whatever your regular life shit, and all of what
Yeah.
you've already,
I'll be
you know,
honest with you. I like I said, I was unemployed during that time. I was unemployed for about 5 years. Um, those 50 to $100 I was making off of shows at the time was my fucking lifeline. The money I made off of graphics was my lifeline.
yeah,
And because I'm the type of person, I don't ask people for things, and that's always been a problem for me, is asking for help. I feel like, and it's part of the way I was raised, I have to handle things on my own. I can have a whole support system that I won't use because I have it implanted in my brain that as a man, I have to handle these situations alone by myself. It wasn't until I actually started reaching out and asking for help that I realized, it's normal. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to say, hey, I'm going through this right now. Like I said, I called on my brother crying my eyes out because I thought I was going to die within 5 years. If I had not reached out to my brother and I would have just, I need to handle this on my own, I'd still be in New York. I'd probably still be living in my friend's living room, which, granted, he never asked me for rent. He never, I did my duties as far as cleaning the house, taking care of the kid and everything, but I give it up to him for never asking me for a dime. Even when I was going out working shows, I come home with a little bit of money. He would never ask me. So, you know, as much as I appreciate that, I know as a man, I couldn't keep doing that. I had to make a move. I didn't know where to go. So I came out here. I legit I only told a handful of people that I was leaving. I packed all my stuff up and came out here with, with a bag of clothes and a dog, and I came out to Pennsylvania. And that right there is, you want to talk about mental, leaving everything you know to come
Yeah.
out here, and you only know maybe three people out here. I had no really friends out here. I didn't know what I was gonna do as far as work. I didn't. I kind of just blindly did this, and the way I describe it is like an alien just being dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and now you have to figure out how to adapt and survive in this new habitat. And that's how I felt. But then I started realizing, like, I'm me. I'm a pro wrestler. I'm naturally charismatic. I have this natural ability to draw people into me. Why don't I start doing that? Because even if you ask my brother, like, unless I know you, I'm a quiet person. Like, I don't bother. I stick to myself. But I notice when I do branch out, it's like the life of the party. It's the cool guy in the room. So I kind of started adapting that. And, I never talked about wrestling to people outside. I always felt weird doing it because they don't understand it. They don't get it. But my brother would always put me over to anyone he met. Oh, my brother's a wrestler. My brother's a wrestler. So when I started talking about it, and I'm talking to people who haven't watched wrestling in like 20, 30 years. And they're like, oh, you do, because my whole thing is I used to go into bars with my dad, and he'd be like, oh, like the WWE stuff and the Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, no, I kind of wrestled down the block next Friday. Oh, you know. So it just became this thing, like, I just don't talk about it. But it's the one thing I love. It's really all I know in my life for the past 11 years. Actually, since I'm a kid, it's really all I knew, all I was interested in. So, like, once I started, like, being me and being comfortable being me, I noticed life got a lot better out here. And when I realized, you know what, I'm on the right path. I may not have my friends. I may not be able to quickly walk to a fucking bodega and go buy some roll-ups. I may not be able to walk down the street and go buy some weed. I may miss all those conveniences, but I'm in a way better position in my life as a person, as a man today than I was 2 years ago.
We've been talking wrestling, we've been talking podcasts, we've been talking real life, all balled into one. And I'm loving everything you're sharing with us. You're being very open, very honest, very
That's
transparent.
the only way I know how to be, bro, is just open and honest. Like, I'm an open book. I am not. Do I have regrets in my life? 100%.
Mhm.
But will I talk about them openly and admit, hey, I was wrong in this situation, or I was, yeah, 100%. I will admit my fault. I'll admit the dirt that I've done in life. Open book, bro.
Every single episode is entitled different. I like to have them their own flavor. And you said a line, and I'm going to use it for the title, and it's called. This is going to be entitled "An Alien Dropped into the Middle of Nowhere." That's the title of this episode.
I like it. I like it. I dig it, bro.
And I know way back when we kind of started, we were talking about the Dario's fitness, and the first time I went to the compared to the second, and we kind of drifted off. But that's why I love nothing written down, no form, nothing like that. That's why I love that organic feel. And you've shared so much, but this is all part of it. I saw Brother Greatness get thrown into a column by Vince Steele, and it was
I
my
was there.
yeah, my father and I thought he was legit dead because we were front row, and there's Brother Greatness's carcass laying on face down on the
Brother
outside.
Greatness, that's another guy that I had trained with back in 2013. Brother Greatness came to the Luda's Wrestling School. G.A. West is another guy that I trained with. So a lot of guys that you've rubbed elbows with, we have a history together. And I think that that's a great thing, because even if you don't know who I am, you know the people I've trained with, you know the people I've helped train. There's guys out there like Cyrus DeVille. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, if he's made his way out there.
I do.
Cyrus DeVille, I will never take credit for training somebody. I will never take credit for anyone's career. I did have a hand in training him. He used to I was living at the gym at the time in 2014. Legit, I say gym. It was a warehouse with no windows and a wrestling ring in it. Um, I was homeless. Joel Massimo took me in, gave me a couch to sleep on, gave me a place to train free of charge. You know, again, as a man, I did my duties of cleaning and whatever he asked me to do, store runs, whatever he needed me to do, I was there to do. And Cyrus would come in at 10 in the morning. And we're like, fuck, who the fuck comes to train at 10 in the morning? Legit, there was like 6 of us living in the gym. And you know what? Even though I must say I hated waking up at 10 in the morning to go train, I liked it, you know, because to see where became as a person and as a man. You know, he's got a kid, he's got 2 kids now, and you know his life is kind of going in the right direction. Um, and I'd like to think that you know I kind of had a hand in that in developing as a wrestler and what not what he became as a person, but kind of if it wasn't for wrestling, would he be that person?
Mm. Um, I actually seen some of those guys that way when I went to go visit the Bronx because I started seeing some of them at PAPW, if you will, Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling
Yeah.
in East Haven. Um, and then the second time I went back, and I know we've been jostling. Um, the second time I went back, we were going, myself and my sister LC, Laura C. We took a ride from here. She lives up in Massachusetts. She came down my way, and then we went to New York, hit the Bronx to go support one Dominic De Niro. He was going
Okay.
against Jay Marconi for the heavyweight strap over there, and for the BWF, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken.
The Bronx Wrestling Federation. Yep.
And long and behold, Dominic De Niro became the champion, and we celebrated. It was a grand time. Now, from the first time I went there to the second time I went there, when wrestling started the first time, they turned off all the lights legitimately, except 2 little circle lights over the ring. No one could see a fucking thing they were doing. Even the boys and girls that were at their fucking merch tables trying to sell shit, they were
Let me
using.
ask you one question. Did they do the commentary over the loudspeaker?
Yes. Not only that, the poor bastards that were selling the hot dogs and shit, they had no lights, so they were using their phones to sell fucking hot dogs and whatnot. So that was the first time. So the second time I go back, again, same place, except there's like, it's all tarped off. You can't see nothing. You can hear some music and stuff, but it's all tarped off and you can't see nothing. You go up, you pay, you get to that curtain and it opens up and it's like, holy shit, it's a whole new world. It's loud. It's shit's going on. It's like it's crazy in there. So it was a totally different experience from the first time that I went to the second time, almost because the atmosphere is still as crazy as it was the first time. The fans, legit, they are off their fucking rockers once that wrestling gets going. Holy shit. Mr. Shane Fair, love him to pieces and pieces. He was doing the ring announcing over there. That was a pleasure. I got to see my man loud and proud in the middle of that ring doing his thing. That was amazing. But I only bring those instances up because that's the only time I think I've ever seen you legitimately perform is over there.
Yeah. And I believe I was in a match with NutriSex. If I'm not mistaken, we were
It
in the
was
same match. It was a
it was
multi-man match.
yeah, it was like a 3 or 4 way or some shit like
Funny
that.
about that is a funny story. That was the first time I had wrestled in New York in about 3 years. Like
Same
I
Patriot.
yeah, because when my school had shut down, um I don't know if I had a bad rep or like I said, maybe it was just in my head, but it was hard for me to work in New York. So I kind of what I call the Ultimo Dragon. If you know the story of Ultimo Dragon, he started training in Japan and they pretty much shit all over him and pretty much told him he was never going to make it. So he went to Mexico to start training and became what he is, and Japan embraced him. So I said, why don't I kind of do the same thing with myself? I'll go to other states and start making a name for myself in other states, you know, and like kind of like all right, fuck you. You know, I love New York, but New York doesn't love me. I'm going to go out to Delaware. I'm going to go out to Massachusetts. I'm going to go out to Ohio. I'm going to go anywhere else and make a name for myself because then when I come back to New York, you want me. And so that was my whole mindset. And then I was working with, I think the promotion was called Now You Create NYC. And I was doing graphics for them, and they had an opening. And I jumped on it. It was the first time I had wrestled in New York in about 2, 3 years. So that was big for me because when I wrestle in New York, I can easily get my people there. You know, whether it's the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, I can easily get a crowd there, and that's what I did. I had my cousins who had never seen me wrestle live before. They were in town, so I brought them. I brought one of my biggest supporters, one of my brother's best friends. You know, he was there. I had all front row tickets. That's the one thing that I'll say that, and this isn't just to put myself over. If you book me in New York, um, guaranteed front row seats sold because my people don't sit anywhere but front row. Like they want to be so it's like you're getting guaranteed at least 10 to 20 tickets sold just because you booked me. You know, it doesn't matter who I'm against, what match I'm in. You're going to have a good 10 to 20 people in the front row based off of me. And again, that's not to put myself over. That's just saying, like, you book somebody in your hometown, like, most likely you're going to get a nice little crowd from them.
Well, that's what you hope. And, same thing in the band thing. I did the band thing. I was a promoter. I was the guy who was booking the shows. I was the guy making, doing the web page and making the posters and all that shit. And it's very, very, and I always tie music and wrestling are just ungodly similar together.
It's funny you
Um,
say that. It's
yeah.
funny you say that because I was just thinking that the other day. It's entertainment. It's the entertainment industry. You're gonna
Yeah.
deal with bullshit promoters. You're gonna deal with scumbag promoters. You're gonna deal with drama. You're gonna deal with bandmates arguing, just like wrestlers and teammates arguing. It's entertainment. Movies, TV, music, wrestling. They're all the same.
Yeah, very much so. Because I use that correlation on the show a lot with music and wrestling. It's just uncanny how the same they are. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
This character that you're building, obviously, we're not going to pull that out. Would I like the scoop? Of course.
I mean, you
But
can pull it out. I have no problem talking about it. Like I've told many people about it. It's just now getting on the show to show the full thing.
okay. You've created a character. Have you been out on the scene at all? Have you been training, getting your body and your mind back in the groove
Funny,
here?
while the whole COVID thing was happening, I was still training. There was I would go train because my trainer Joel Maximo Jose and Jose Maximo, they were getting ready for a comeback a couple years ago. So me being one of their top students, um, Joel asked me to help him, train and get ready. And so I mean the whole SAT comeback has been planned for, since before COVID. So during COVID, I was still training. I just wasn't working shows. Um, and then when I move out here, I would go into New York about every week to go train. So I've been physically active. I just haven't worked a show.
Okay. Do you have any kind of networking or any connections that you've made since you've been out to PA? Because I know it's not maybe as flourishing as it is in our area between the NYC, even at the New York State. There's a lot going on there right now. Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I know it's not as flourishing probably as it is in PA, but I know there is some stuff in PA. Have you made your way, or even in some surrounding areas, and maybe to get that juice going, man? Because you seem like you're passionate. You seem like you're good up here. You seem like you're in a good place. And I think it's, let's get some action. Let's get some ring time. Let's see that shit.
It's funny you say that because, again, like I said before, I don't really talk to people outside of the business about wrestling. But my brother had mentioned it to one of my coworkers. And he's one of my leads where I work. Um, and he was very interested, and he went on Facebook and found a flyer for a show out here. I'll be honest with you, I'm very picky with where and who I work. And this isn't because I have an ego or a big head. I'm a fan of quality over quantity. I'd rather have 10 good matches than 2,500 bad matches. Okay, I'd rather work for 20 good promotions than 100 promotions. You know, when I look for where I want to work, I look at the talent they have. if there's anyone that piques my interest that I really want to work. Um, Another thing is their flyers, how their flyers look, how their production looks. If their flyers look like they were done on Microsoft Paint, and this is no disrespect to any talent that does work shows for like, but I'm sorry, it's just not me because uh, especially in this day and age, it's so easy, well, much easier than it was 10 years ago to at least have a quality looking show. You don't have to have the best matches, but if your footage looks good and if your flyers look good, shit, people are going to go. I say it's just like a t-shirt. Okay, if you have a hot design on a t-shirt, people don't have to know your band or whether you're a wrestler or what you do. If it looks cool, people are going to go and buy it. And I adapt the same thing to wrestling. If it looks good, if it looks cool, if it looks professional, people are going to go there. So there are promotions out here. I don't know every promotion out here, but I have seen some that, to me, it seems like when you think of indie, you either think of Joe Schmo's promotion or you think of uh, Game Changer Wrestling. And those are the two levels. Do I Joe Schmo's promotion? Are they going to pay? Is it worth it for me to go over there? Am I going to go wrestle some guy that's untrained and he's going to hurt me? These are things that I think about now because it's happened to me to where I've gone out to Rhode Island or something like that. And I've been in the ring with somebody that's untrained and I either almost got hurt or the match was completely horrible or because they're untrained and they don't know what they're doing. These are things after 11 years in the business, I start to thinking about. 10, 11 years ago, I would have jumped on every goddamn show that was available. Now I start to think of, is it worth it for me financially to spend X amount to get out of there and only make X amount? Is that really worth it? No. If a promoter covers my travel, fuck a booking fee. You cover my travel, I'll go. And again, a lot of wrestlers will not put that out there. I'll put it out there. You cover my travel, I'll work your show. Or you give me an opponent I really want, I'll fly myself out there just to work. Like I'll be honest, I have in the last year I've been working on a list of people I want to work and promotions I want to work. And if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of
Oh,
dabble in that a bit.
no, please do.
All right, so I started thinking of what do I really want to do in this business and who do I want to work because I'm 31 now. For me, it feels like the clock is going to tick before it's too late for me to blow up. And I'm not saying I can't blow up at 40, 45 years old, but I want to do it now. I want to have my name out there now. And there's certain people in certain promotions I need to work. And I feel if I have these, I think I'll be good. Number
And,
one on my
and before you start, and I hate to interrupt, but before you start, what type of wrestler would you describe yourself? Because I'd like to give the boys and girls a little feel of these names that you're going to come off with. Does that style jive? How is it going to feel?
100%. That's what I think about because there's been a lot of indie shows where, of course, the promoter doesn't know you, so they're just going to book you in any match. And
Right.
then they wonder why the match didn't go as they thought it would go. It's because you don't know me. You don't know my style. And not putting me with someone that meshes with me. How many times can you put me against a big guy before it's the same old shit? You know? Either the big guy gets the win or I get the surprise win with the roll up.
Hmm.
I mean, those are the only two options there. But you put me against some guy that is my size or my style. Okay, now see what I can do. And I feel like in the last 11 years, and it's sad to say, in the last 11 years, there's only been a couple times where I feel like I've done that. Sebastian Cage is one guy that I've worked that I will work every day of the week because when Joel gave us the opportunity to work each other, I knew blending of styles. It's gonna fucking work, and it did. Um, but as far as my style, I would say I'm more of a lucha libre, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm a spot monkey. I think wrestling has evolved to the point where no one wants to see you in a rest hold for a minute, 2 minutes. Yes, at a certain point in the match and the telling the story, it works, but I think there's room for everything. There's room to be the Mortal Kombat video game wrestler. I grew up in the '90s. I grew up on Rey Mysterio. I grew up on Psychosis. I grew up on Conan. I grew up on Hoovy. I grew up on Amazing Red. I grew up on, Shawn Michaels and guys who were small that still made it work because of their athletic ability. So my style is like more of a spot monkey, a lucha libre style. I go in there. I know psychology, and I know how to work a crowd. But you give me that match against somebody that is in that style, I guarantee I can have a better match than a match that the promoter was thinking of putting me in just to test me out. And I feel like if you're gonna bring in a guy, um, and you're just going to give him a throwaway match. For me, mentally, that feels like how much does this guy really believe in me if he's just going to throw me in a throwaway match, And it's not about wins or losses. I don't care if I go to West Bumfuck, Ohio, and take a loss, but if I'm going to go out to West Bumfuck, Ohio, and take a loss, I want to have the best possible match. And with my style, some guys can't work that style. Some guys. There's been guys where I've came to shows and said, "You're about to have the easiest night of your life. I have everything planned out right here." And my old tagging partner will tell you, I'll fall asleep in the car on the way to a show and wake up about 2 hours later with the whole match because I dreamed that shit, like, and but then there's people that like, oh, I don't want to do this. There's no need to do this. There's no need to do this. Okay, I understand there's no need to do this. But is anyone else on the card doing this? No. Okay, that's why we should do this. Yeah, and that's kind of because I came from New York City, bro. I grew up watching independent wrestling from New York City and New York guys. I was trained by New York guys, you know. So I have that mentality in my head, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, you don't have to do that much tonight. You don't have to do that much tonight." No, we don't have to, but I want to. I want to be the best match on the card. I want to, okay, if everyone else is doing fucking your basic wrestling 101, then I want to take it up to fucking 505. Like let's bring it up a bit, let's show them something different on the card. So some of the guys that I feel I could work with, and I've called out a couple of these guys already. Number one on my list is Don't Die Miles. Um, Don't Die Miles, I had a brief interaction with Infinite Pro Wrestling where um, I'm from New York, he's from Chicago. Uh, we wrestled in Ohio. And this is when he was a rookie when he had first started. And it was nothing. It was just a match to build my story with this guy, Chris Moore, where we'd start doing stuff and then Chris Moore would come in and beat the crap out of both of us, making it a no contest, you know? But for the 2 to 3 minutes that we worked, we had that crowd in our hands for the three, and we did really nothing. Like basically been lock up back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Everything he did, I did. We matched each other. Like we knew what we were gonna do, and then Chris Moore comes in and does his thing. But I've always felt since that day that we could have gotten so much more out of that because we had the crowd from the get-go, and the crowd didn't know me. The crowd didn't know him. We started off the match. We got we clapped, got the crowd into it. We got them into it. We shook hands. The crowd clapped again. We did a couple of things where it was back and forth, and then a standoff. Crowd got into it. I said, okay, let's move into going back and forth with strikes. We started going back and forth with strikes, and I did something that I didn't do until that day that Sammy Callahan had taught me. I was sharing a hotel room with him one night, and I was just picking his brain. And he said, "You got long hair." He goes, "Do you ever put your hair in a ponytail?" I said, "Not when I wrestle. The long hair. I got to look like a fucking wrestler." He said, "No, put your hair up." And then at some point in the match, just slowly rip the hair tie out of your hair and hear the crowd. I thought nothing of it. But then here's this point in this match where it's two skinny guys going at it, hitting each other hard, and then he hits me with a good one, and I go, all right, I slowly pull out the hair tie, and the whole crowd goes, oh, because they know some shit's about to go down, So Don't Die Miles is one of the guys that I feel like there's still something there with that we could pull off. And now with what he's doing now, I worked with him when he was a rookie, and I told him back then, you got something. I've always had this eye for people, and I told him back then, you got this, bro. Now to see where he is now, I want to work him. Uh, Jake Painter, who I met from Generation Championship Wrestling in Florida. He's a Chicago cat. I feel our styles would mesh so well that we could do something like really good. And really, there's kind of a story to everyone in this match. And everyone I list, there's kind of a story for. So there's a story that we can cut promo and give the history that that my opponents may not even know there's history. Um, Joey Janela, that's somebody I want to work because he's kind of been that guy that um set GCW on a path. He was that GCW guy. And I seen what he did, and I think he does not get enough credit for what he has done for independent wrestling. And I see a lot of similarities in personally, and as far as the gimmick that I'm going to be introducing and his current gimmick is kind of similar. The whole bad boy, sex, drugs, rock and roll thing. I think with his style, my style, we'd mesh very well together. Um, this is a name you definitely know, Jordan Oliver.
Oh,
Jordan Oliver. I don't think I've called him out yet. I think the only person I've called out so far is Don't Die Miles so far on the list. Um, but Jordan Oliver, I've wanted to work since he was a rookie, since he was teaming with Casey Navarro.
mm,
I wanted to work with him. I just seen talent in him and to see where he is now. And I'm gonna be honest with this. I was kind of saving this. So Don, you're gonna get something I was saving here. I was kind of saving this for my first match, to do after my first match back. And I'm gonna drop the bomb right here on the Kincaid Files. Jordan Oliver does not need to work me. I need to work Jordan Oliver. Jordan Oliver doesn't have to wrestle me to see where his career goes. I have to wrestle him for me mentally and physically to know if I'm on top of my fucking game. And that's a shoot. Like, this is no fucking promo. Like, that's a shoot how I feel. And there's a reason why I have these guys on my list. They don't need me. I'm coming to you honestly and saying, I need you because I need to test myself against these guys. And that's coming from somebody who's been in the business 11 years, who should have that confidence in them that I don't. I need to wrestle these guys to see if I have that confidence. So Jordan
mm,
Oliver has always been on the top of my list. And again, I I feel like that's a match I need for me to have. I don't care where it happens. I just need that match to happen so I can test myself against him because I see a lot of similarities in who he is as a person and myself as a person and where he's going and where I could go. But not only that, the fact that you're better than me, bro. And I will say that you're better than me, bro. But I need to see if I can live up to my own potential. So Jordan Oliver is one of those guys. Again, Casey Navarro is next up. I want Casey Navarro for the same reasons. I wanted to wrestle him when he was a rookie. And I was going through some of my old footage back when I did a show for Beyond Wrestling. And I'm doing a tag match and I see Casey Navarro and Jordan Oliver ringside watching the match. And it
mm,
hit me. I said, there's a story behind it. It's like there's an untold story here with these matches. That's wrestling. It doesn't have to
mm,
be some made up story. Oh, we're a champion. It can be real life stuff. I think, like we were talking about before, that makes for great fucking content. Like I just said, real life. I don't need to wrestle Jordan. I mean, Jordan Oliver doesn't need to wrestle me. He doesn't need to give a fuck who I am. I need to work him. Uh, I don't know if you've heard of Kid Bandit. Kid Bandit. He's a student of the Nightmare Factory. He's well, I'm sorry, I don't want to say he. They're a student of the Nightmare Factory. They've been making waves for themselves, and that's someone that I can see myself in the ring with. He's a young guy that, again, I'm like, okay, I need to test myself against these young 20-year-olds, man, because I'm 31. I'm starting to hit. I'm gonna before I know it's gonna be 35. Then I'm gonna be 40. I need to see if I can keep up with these young cats. Um, Rios Badu, who he's done his thing in Mexico and California and Florida. He's a student of the Team 3D Academy. We have history. And it's more personal, where back when I was working for FSW, one of our last shows he was booked on. It was him and his partner versus it was him and his partner Team Lucha versus Dan Moff and Steve Mack. And we just kind of clicked from then on. I did a few designs for him. He got me hooked up with Generation Championship Wrestling. Like, so I've always wanted to test myself against him on a personal level. And the last two, I called him out recently, Myron Reed. Myron Reed, I've had my eye on since probably MLW signed him. And I feel like there's something that can happen. We can make magic. And I've told him personally, like, I think if we worked a match together, we could create a fucking symphony of destruction, bro. And like, and then I found out he used to backyard wrestle, and I'm like, I used to backyard wrestle. We can tell a story of these similarities. And last but not least, Warhorse. Warhorse, which is because he fucking rocks, man. I remember meeting Warhorse when he was part of, I think they were called the Viking War Party or something like that. It was a bunch of Viking gimmicks, and I met him back in like 2013, 2014, and now I see what he's doing. He's got the whole rocker gimmick, and I'm like, give me a fucking tag match or a singles match with the guy, and I'll be forever. And for me, these are my bucket list matches. Like, you notice there's really no legends on it. These are my bucket. Like, before I die, these are the matches that I feel need to fucking happen.
It's a very fine list. I hope you can start checking these off in your career because you seem, again, you're in a good place, and it seems like you're going to jump back in the saddle a little bit here and maybe get that career flowing and getting back up there. Like, just, I mean, not to sound weird, but probably spiritually for yourself. Once you get out there, it kind of hits right here and it changes you. Doing your thing because that's your passion, that's your love. It's very evident on the
Yeah.
way you speak. We could go on for another 2, 3, 4 hours probably with kind of go back and forth here. So what I'd like to do is maybe bring this to a tail end. And what I'd like to do is maybe invite you in another maybe 6 months or so, see where you're at, see if you've got any networking going on, been getting in the ring. And I follow your stuff, so I mean, I would obviously see this. So let's maybe kind of make a return of
Yeah.
one Kris Rex and see how that goes. Would that be fine with you?
Oh, I'm 100%. I like that idea. Again, it goes back to storytelling. If okay, this is where he was 6 months ago. This is what he said he wanted to do. Let's see how far he's come with that in the next
Yeah,
6 months.
yeah.
Again, it's story. I think life is one big story, and it is, and it's all how you fucking tell it, man.
Absolutely. Um, Now, before I do let you go, I really would like you to promote because this is a platform for Kris Rex right now. Not that it hasn't from when we hit the record button. Please promote anything that you've got going on because boys and girls, this guy's busy and he's got a lot of shit going on. And we've been talking a lot of wrestling and life kind of upstairs here a lot. And it kind of took a big portion of our topic and conversation. But I don't give a shit because that's what this is all about.
I
You
think
never
it's
know.
something. Honestly, I would never say go as far as to say I'm a mental health advocate because just that terminology makes me seem important and I'm not important. But 100%, the discussion needs to be opened up on mental health, especially with professional wrestlers, because it people don't realize the toll it takes on you mentally to constantly think of this, whether people like you, whether people hate you, is this person going to book you, why aren't they booking you, the politics, there's always drama, it's a mental drain, and I think the topic of mental health in wrestling needs to be opened up a lot more than it already is. It's been opened up, but it needs to be
Yeah.
opened up to the point where it's normal to talk about it and say, "Hey, I have problems. I deal with anxiety. I deal with this. It's okay to fucking open up. You're a fucking human being." and stop looking at us in this light that we're some fucking superstars. We're not. Even superstars in WWE, they're just regular fucking people. And when you go online and you constantly bash us for our personal choices, our sexual choices, or our religious beliefs, or anything that has to do with our personal life, because somehow you're the judge of us because you see us on TV, or you see us at an indie show, or you see us on YouTube, that you have some judgment on our life. Look at what happened to wrestlers. I hate to bring it up. And I'm not going to mention her name just out of respect for her family, because I'm sure they are kind of, don't want to have it brought up. But the female Japanese wrestlers that committed suicide a few years ago because of online bullying, because of something that happened on a TV show. And it's like, who the fuck are you to sit there and critique our fucking lives, you know? And it's not anger towards fans. It's more anger towards the fact that you feel no compassion because we're these extraordinary people.
That's why I've always said, if I see these offset posts, if you will, of the friends that I've made, behind the scenes and whatnot, it's the first thing I do. I hit the old DM. I'm like, hey, you good? Because here's my phone number. I always reach out. Boys and girls, always reach out. And I'm talking not the fans. I'm talking right now to the boys and girls that have always given me the privilege and honor of your friendship, your relationships, and your love and kindness with what I do. And I'm just like, again, a dude with a phone. Always reach out. And I know you guys and girls have so many pressures. We talk about it on the show so much. The sacrifices that you do for your family and all of it. Again, the upstairs. Just reach out. Even if it's not me, if it's somebody that you're just more comfortable with. Sometimes it's a little bit more comfortable with someone who's neutral, that doesn't know you're behind the scene, real life stuff that you can just kind of open up to. That's me. I got a number
Yeah,
for you, and it's Don Kincaid. So please just reach out, boys and girls. And I'm
100%.
I'm glad that
100%.
we really, touched upon that topic a little bit more, my man, because I've always put that in stirring the pot. But before we do let you go, I want you to promote anything you have, any of the Twitters, the porn hubs, whatever you got going on, share with us, the fans, because this is what this is all about: is sharing a little bit more light, if I can, on the talent we speak with, so you can make new fans, and new fans can see your stuff.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. If you want to follow me I'm on all social media platforms at Rex Wrestles. That's REX Wrestles. Um, if you're into heavy metal, hard rock, punk, glam metal, I have a podcast that I do. It's more of a internet radio called Motley Metal that airs on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern live. I take requests. I'll mix in some of today's music with yesterday's music. It's a nice little blend. So if you're into, the harder styles of music, hard rock, metal, that's definitely a show to look out for. Also, I am a co-host of Wrestling with the Bear alongside my former tag team partner John Punn and sports journalist Alex Alcazaz, aka the Bear of Texas. Uh, that will be streaming live actually starting May 5th. Will be on Facebook, YouTube, and also audio streaming live. And our first guest is going to be the owner of Generation Championship Wrestling, Jeremy Gomez. So we're going to be speaking to him. We've got
Hi.
a bunch of people lined up for as far as guest hosts. And of course, I'm always, looking for bookings. So if a promoter or a booker or even a fan that wants to see me is watching this or listening to this, then my emails and my DMs are always open. My email is rexwrestles@gmail.com. I try to keep everything Rex Wrestles. It's just easier. So yeah, hopefully you catch me in the city near you.
Thank you for all of that info. Without that, we can't follow and have some fun and just do that fan wrestler or fan rocker or fan DJ or whatever. You've got many hats wearing over there, my friend. You're a busy dude. And speaking of which, and before I let you go, I'd be very remiss. I actually want to make a request right now for Motley Metal Radio, if I could.
Go right ahead.
Now, there's a band that's out there, a super group, if you will, and they've made a couple albums. One was 2000, one is 2022, just released. And as we were kind of, I was waiting for you a little bit. I was going through the new album, and I got to track 5. And usually, when you listen to full albums, you kind of get a couple tracks that you're really not happy with. I've gotten to track 5, and I am very pleasantly happy from 1 to 5 so far, my man. And again, I haven't got through the whole album, but this is a band called Black Swan, and it's a super group. Yes, it's a super group made up of Jeff Pilson, Matt Starr. We are talking Red Beach, and we are talking Robin McCauley at the Volks, if you will, VOX, the Vox, the Volks, the vocals. And they have a beautiful 80s sound. Now, I'm an 80s guy, my man. That's what I did. I did hair shit when I was in the band. That's all. My friend, if you have not heard of Black Swan, check them out. The album is called Generation Mind, M-I-N-D, Generation Mind. Now, they released 2 singles. One is called Generation Mind, one called Eagles Fly. But I like to be different. We all know that. I like track number 2 of what I've listened to so far. And that's called She Hides Behind. So I know that was a lot of information thrown at you. So I'll narrow it down. Black Swan, She Hides Behind. That's my request.
You got it. I'll be playing it on Thursday, my friend.
Yes. That's how it's done, boys and girls. Make a request, hit Motley Metal Radio, my man. That's 100%. How we.
And I like that you said you're an '80s guy because and not to take up too much time on the show.
No, guys.
But we had talked about the gimmick, and that's literally like what the gimmick is. It's just the love child of Twisted Sister, Motley Crue, Prince. I mean, I had never thought of wearing makeup before. I did a test run at a show last week where my trainers wrestled Rock and Roll Express, and then I came in. I'm not wrestling or anything, but I said, let me start introducing to who they're gonna see now. And I would air the eyeliner, the black nail polish, the lipstick, and I said, you know what? I think I could feel comfortable in this. So, like, legit, it's if Nikki Sixx, Dee Snider, and Prince just had an orgy and somehow had a baby, it's Kris Rex. It's
Wow, I'm going to have to say right now, that's got my interest. I'm curious to see what this is going to be. Well, Mr. Rex, I cannot appreciate for you taking some time out of your life to share with us, the fans. Again, you were open, you were transparent, you shared a lot of cool stuff with us. And that's all we want, just to pull back the curtain a little bit, because these conversations that we've had this evening, we would never have at the merch tables, getting an autograph, buying a t-shirt, grabbing a sticker. So I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your life to speak to us, the fans. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me, man, and giving me an opportunity to kind of broaden my audience. Because, like I said, you never know who's listening to the Kincaid Files, and it gives me a chance to do exactly that. Just get out to a different audience, and it gives you, by me promoting it, gives you a chance to get out to another audience. Because, of course, I run my own podcast. Of course, I'm going to be like, okay, listen to Don Kincaid's podcast too. Like, you can listen to us both. That's another thing I want to bring across. You don't have to be in competition. You don't have to just like one promotion or like one podcast. You can enjoy it all. You know how many wrestling podcasts I listen to? I don't just listen to my own. I don't just listen to Donkey. I listen to everything out there. This whole, I've noticed that there's this thing between promotions that it's, this or that. It's this promotion or that. And it's like, no, it's not WWE or AEW. Do you understand? Both are making money off of you. So it's right. Exactly, bro.
This has been a fine time with one Kris Rex. I'm glad we were able to connect finally. I need to start seeing you perform live. I know you're in PA and I'm not. You never know. These logistics may work their way together. Please, I cannot wait to see this whole D. Snyder, Nikki Sixx, and Prince having a baby thing, that's going to be something interesting.
I'll tell you, it's definitely going to be a different look if you're used to how Kris Rex normally looks. I'll tell you that. But again, thank you for having me, Don. This was a great conversation. I'll tell you, one of the better podcasts I've been on. Usually, it's the same old. Ask me the same question bullshit, and off the bat I have the answer because I know what you're gonna ask. I love shit like this. Like nothing. I'll legit tell you guys, nothing of this was planned. He did not have any question for me planned. Like this was just shoot the shit, and that's the type of shit I love, man. So thank you for allowing me to be me and express myself.
Hey, that's what we do. That's what I do at wrestling. I'm a jackass at wrestling. I'm the first one to admit it. I'll say it loud and proud. I don't give a fuck. And that's wrestling, my man. We have fun. We try to just, make these relationships and networks happen. And it's been just nothing but love and respect. It's been a lot of, and I know I've used the word fun probably 30,000 times in every episode I do, but God damn, it's a lot of fun, my man.
It is, bro. It is.
With all of that, my friends, this is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Kris Rex. Thank you again, my friend.